It is Vile Child. It is the 2016 debut album for Milk Teeth. The band come all the way from Stroud, I think. They do a punk, well, back then it was a punk influence grunge mess, sure. I came across Milk Teeth after hearing a plethora of reviews and just general people talking about the band. But the final straw came from Stephen Hill. I can't remember what podcast. I think he was of That's Not Metal at the time. Now he is of the Riot Act podcast. Do check it out because it's brilliant. Does everything better than I can. And his glowing review from when he looked at Vile Child or a live show of Milk Teeth or whatever it was just go out and buy the album. Don't stream it. Just go out and buy it because it'll be worth your every cent that you put into it, or every penny you put into it. Don't know why I went with cent first. I'm not American. And which is exactly what I did. I went online after listening to that podcast, bought the album, and a few years later, I am now completely obsessed with Milk Teeth, which isn't unhealthy at all. You're weird. And it acted as like the first time I'd ever bought an album without previously listening to anything they'd done. I'd bought albums based on a single, or I've just bought the Ali Reza album, which is a hip-hop artist that's signed to... It's behind me, actually. Earache Records, that was it. Yeah, just bought it based on the fact it's come off Earache, and the first two songs I heard about it were actually really good, and it was dark and dingy and spooky and shit, and I'm trying to get into more hip-hop, but this was the first time I'd literally just gone, yeah, fuck it, why not? It was back in the days when I had more disposable income. I miss being a student. So, Milk Teeth have had their fair share of changes in their comparatively short lifespan. I think they formed in like 2013. And they've had various errors, I guess you could say. But in this, guys, in 2016, on paper, or record I should say, they were a grunge-heavy four-piece fronted by co-vocalist Becky Blomfield, who's still with the band, Josh Bannister, and they were joined by Chris Webb, who was a guitarist, and the Mentalist, who is the drummer as well, Ollie Holbrook. 3 weeks before this album was released, though, Josh Bannister would leave the band, and lots of people would say, have they already fucked it before things got started? Spoilers, they didn't, but let's pretend we don't know that yet. This album feels like it's an album made by angry millennials for angry millennials. There is a lot of relationship, love, a lot of mental health song topics around here, which is something I'll get to a little bit more in a bit. If you're aware of Milk Teeth through their Road Run release, like the two-shot EPs of Be Nice and Go Away, where for me I think that's more grunge influence punk and grunge influence pop punk. Vile Child is a far more raw, unrestrained. It's more punk influence 90s grunge. So grunge is definitely the key thing from the album. And so, like, opening number Brickwork is all the early anger of 90s Foo Fighters, and then the follow-up Driveway Birthday goes on the other side of things, where it's far more foreboding, Nirvana-esque skulk. That's all about the trials and tribulations of mental health, and it's dark. It is very dark. Turn on a light, please, because it's very dark. And as I was saying before, the whole ethos about mental health, it's something that they really, even now, they still champion, and they are very open, especially, well, as a three-piece now, so I'll get into what's happened with them now, but they are Becky, Ollie, and M. Foster, and all of them just are very open and very honest about mental health and encourage people to talk about that sort of thing and have charity and help concerts. And they had, I don't know what best way to describe them, they just had a meet and greet, which was all the money you paid in to get in went directly to a charity whose name I forget, I'm very sorry. But it was just all about making sure you had someone to talk to. And that is fucking astounding is what it is. And you don't see enough bands do it, I don't think. Especially when mental health is such a sensitive and still, some places still kind of taboo. So props to Milk Teeth for being just good dudes. Where was I? The punk rock side, like I said, on this one they are more punk rock influenced grunge. The full punk rock sort of thing does come through quite a bit. On Cut You Up, Josh damn near sounds like his throat's being shredded to absolute buggery, to the point where you could say it's almost like a hardcore punk kind of song instead of just punk rock, which there is a divide, there is a difference. I'm not going to try and explain it because I'll fuck it up. Similarly, on Get a Clue, it is a lot more punk rock on there, and Josh is a lot more of a raw OG punk kind of vocalist compared to Becky. The subject of which she is the absolute star of the show. I saw a review that basically labelled her vocals as sugary sweet, and I get what they're trying to say. She is the clean vocalist, and she does have entire way through, even when she's like putting the most amount of effort in, they never hear like a voice crackle for like a harsh vocal or that sort of thing. So I think that's what they're trying to get at, but the emotion that she carries in her voice, which borders on like almost being nonchalant but still quite powerful and quite emo. There's too much in there for it to be branded as sugary. Like I said, her somber execution in stripped back tracks like Swear Jar and Kabuki, they're often some of like the heaviest parts of the album because it's just it can be just so drab at points, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. Alongside Driveway Birthday, Kabuki offers another bleak take on life ravaged by mental illness as well. Like I said before, they are very, very gung-ho and very, very open about all these sort of things. And there's these slow, meandering points where musically Vile Child is at its most haunting. It is, like I said before, it's quite foreboding, it's quite sinister, and everything goes a bit monochromatic, which is fine. It's what you want from some albums sometimes. I must admit the tempo is kind of all over the place. There is this constant bounce between the doom and gloom and the more musically upbeat punk rock sort of stuff, which at first can be a little jarring. I remember I was quite worried when I first got this. I initially wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan, maybe not. I wasn't. If I'd listened to it first, I might not have bought it straight away. Because at the time, I think I've said it 100 times by now, I was more into like the fast-paced sort of stuff back then. And so the fast-paced songs on here, I was totally in for. But when it goes stripped back a bit for Swear Jar and Driveway Birthday and that kind of thing, I was like, I paid money for this. Now, obviously, I really, really like it. But yeah, even now, the whole tempo thing can be a little bit jarring. But I feel like enough of this album brought enough people in to give them the platform that they needed at a time, and I think by now I'd say they fully deserve it. After Josh left, like I said, he left 3 weeks before the album was released, and I remember, like, even now I'm seeing loads of reviews that from back then talked about how before they've really got traction, they are having to go through this huge crisis. Have they fucked it before they've even started? They hadn't. Like I said before, Billy Hutton was brought in to replace Josh, and from there Milk Teeth released the brilliant double bill of EPs in 2017, which were Be Nice and Go Away. Excuse me. Billy and fellow guitarist Chris would leave Milk Teeth at different points in 2018. They were replaced by M. Foster, who is a lady of 1,000 bands, but most notably Nervous, and now I think formerly Funeral Shakes. I seem to remember when they did the Big Fat Quiz, she said formerly, but I can't see anything because maybe I missed it. But M. Foster, very good guitarist, also fucking brilliant screamer in their new song Stained, which I think I remember reading somewhere that's where Becky wants to go for the second Milk Teeth album or whatever next release comes next. That was almost like a sentence. They want to go back to this sort of like dirty grunge sort of thing from Vile Child, and like I said, Stain is a testament to that. And if they can make an entire album as good as Stain, I for one welcome our angsty overlords. And yeah, I think it is brilliant. And the really satisfying thing I've got now, apart from a lack of composure to talk, is so I've been to see Milk Teeth twice now. I've been quite lucky in that regard. They have supported was it Don Broco or was it Lower Than Atlantis? I think it's when they've supported Lower Than Atlantis. It was, yes. They supported Load Atlantis, and I remember at the time thinking they were a bit. I couldn't put my finger on what it was. I think that's when they still had Chris and Billy in the band. But yeah, they were a little bit. They just didn't have the same energy from what I've seen on videos. And as it turned out, literally like a week afterwards, they said they needed to take a break because they just had shit going on, which is fair enough. Look after yourselves. That's what. Yeah. Supportive words that I can use. And then they came back the following year supporting Enter Shikari, and you could tell the break did them well because they looked so much more energetic, so happier. Ollie still looks fucking bananas, but that's fine because we love him for it. And what's satisfying to me now is I went with a friend of mine from work, and I'm fully aware that pretty much everyone that went was there for Shikari, but when it got announced and that Milk Teeth were supporting, everyone kept coming up to me to say if I'd seen it because I go on about them so much at work. People have recognized the name. They might not recognize the music, but they know them by name. And so I went there with my friend from work. I got really into the Milk Teeth part, got as close as I could. And now, so that gig was months ago. I can't remember when because I won't lie. It's the first time I'd ever been in a mosh pit, and it was a Shikari mosh pit, and I don't remember a lot of where I was apart from just trying not to elbow tiny people in the head. But even now, every time we're at work and it's just me and my mate in the office, he will just play Milk Teeth because he adores them. And little satisfying like things like that, which is why kind of a point why I do this podcast anyway, to talk to other people about music they might have heard of, and so they can get into a new world of music. And he can go from any phase of Milk Teeth, even things falling off. Even I'm just trying to think what he said his favorite song was the other day. I think it was Brickwork or Burger Drop, one of them, or Brain Food. Something begin with B, I feel, which doesn't help because a lot of this album is B. But the fact that they can go, he can go from never listening to them apart from whenever I rattle on about them to they are what he listens to all the time with the Shikari in his playlist, I think shows how good Milk Teeth are, and it makes me really satisfied that I can do that. So